and welcome back to Presley Mania. So glad that you are tuning in to this show. I want to give a quick shout out to Will Forrester. Will, this was such a great gift. I received by Federal Express this week this book. Yours, Elvis Presley, the definitive collection of Elvis Presley autographs, Volume 1 by Stephen M. Schatz. Oh my gosh. I have taken it out and looked at it, but I'm going to be doing a review over this book. I would love to have Stephen on the show. So Stephen, if by chance you're listening, I would like to have you on sometime to discuss this. It also comes with a study guide, which kind of teaches you how to authenticate Elvis Presley autographs. So, super cool, wonderful gift, very thoughtful. He said he thought it could give me something to do while I was taking care of my husband. And so, I appreciate it so much. So, thank you so much, Will. It was just really, really sweet. Elvis friends are such good friends. They're just the best. So I wanted to go over the new documents that have been uploaded, and I'm a little behind on some of them because of everything that's been going on in our life. But that being said, some of them came out the end of May, and then the most recent ones, June 6th, are the most recent ones that I have. So let's kind of start talking about some of this. But before we get into all of the documentation that were filed, all of the documents that were filed and stuff, I thought it might be interesting to go back and do a little timeline of Priscilla and the events that led up to this suit. So it kind of refreshes our memory on what was going on before all of this came to fruition, right? Okay, so I want to go all the way back to 2016, okay? What happened in 2016? Well, that is when Lisa Marie removed Barry Siegel and her mom as trustees of her trust, and she replaced them with Riley and Benjamin. Okay? Priscilla would have received notification of this. Barry Siegel received his. Priscilla would have received notification as well that she had been removed. Okay? Remember it. So, on August 22nd, we're going to skip forward now. Priscilla asks Bridget, this is according to Bridget, Priscilla asks Bridget to take over formal management of her business and personal affairs. Well, upon doing this, Bridget discovers that Priscilla is 60 days away from insolvency. And she has $700,000 in unpaid tax debt and limited income to take care of her obligations. Why was the 2016 date important? I'm wondering what has happened between 2016 and 2022. We know Lisa filed suit against Barry Siegel, right? Did she reach some kind of deal with her mom to pay her back for all the money, the misappropriation of money that they had done? And, Lisa was claimed to be broke herself. And, she had bought the place in England and had spent a lot of money on it. But she thought that she was still financially fine, apparently. Well, Priscilla, you got to remember, Priscilla was taking down $900,000 a year for managing Lisa's trust. $900,000 for managing her grown daughter's trust. Could that have something to do with the fact that when that money stopped coming in, that maybe she was spending some of the back money that she had? You would think that she would have put some of this away and invested it in things. I don't know, maybe her money was tied up. I don't know. But when Bridget took over in 2022, there was no money. Priscilla also claims that she did not know she had been removed from the trust. So we're going to get to more of that here in a minute. Okay, so on September of 2022, September of 2022, the Priscilla movie was announced, that there was going to be a movie. So she probably had some income from that, upfront money, that kind of thing. I'm just guessing. Then on January 8th, so from August of 2022 to January 8th, Bridget and her group and Priscilla, this is all according to what Bridget says in the documents, had been working on putting a plan together to exploit Priscilla's name, image, and likeness. Okay? So on January 8th, they meet with Lynn Walker Wright, the attorney, in Florida for Priscilla to sign the documents. Okay? But what's important to note about this is in the planning stages of getting this company formed to exploit her name, image, and likeness, Bridget discovers something that seems kind of odd. Years ago, Priscilla had sold the name Presley, the name, image, and likeness rights to the name Presley for $6.5 million. Priscilla, when confronted with this information, says, "Oh, I forgot about that." And I've said this on several of the back shows, and many of you probably remember. How do you forget a $6.5 million payout? How do you forget a payout that was the biggest that you had ever received and still is the biggest she has ever received to date? That she forgot. There will be more of this. Okay, so anyhow, they meet in Florida with Lynn Walker Wright, and they sign these documents making this new company to exploit the name Priscilla, because remember, they can't exploit Presley. It has to be Priscilla. So that's what they do. They form these companies, okay, to help get Priscilla solvent again. At this time, Bridget was also appointed to serve as co-trustee of Priscilla's trust, and Bridget was granted general and health care power of attorneys. All of this was on videotape. They recorded all of it. The reason I bring that up is because probably many of us, maybe all of us, have seen that video footage. Well, in the new documents, it says that, I'm just going to read part of it. Yet, as video footage of the signing in Presley's possession and viewable online shows, Presley signed the operating agreements under no duress with her lawyer, Attorney Wright, answering her questions and explaining the documents as they went. So, Bridget states it's viewable online. Kind of sounds like it was done on purpose, doesn't it? Rolling Stone leaked that. I think I had to get it from somewhere. Wonder where. I just had to throw that out there. Okay. So they sign everything. Priscilla seems fine, right? To me, she doesn't look like she's under duress. She has a question about some of the percentages on one of the contracts that she's signing on the company. And she points it out, and Lynn says something to the effect of, "Oh, that's the percentages." And Priscilla says, "Yes, I want to talk to her about this." They talk about the power of attorney. We went over all this in the last show. And she signs them all. And what does she say? "Oh, I'm so glad you went through all this, because I didn't have time to read it. She didn't have time to read it. She couldn't read it. Okay, so she didn't take the time to read those documents that are going to be important to her, to make money for her, and she's just signing them. I trust Bridget, she says. I trust her. She's point blank asked that question. Okay. Sounds familiar, right? Right. Then on January 12th, 2023, the unthinkable happens. We lose Lisa Marie. She passes away. And everything changes. 2 weeks later, on January 26th, 2023, what does Priscilla do? With the help of Bridget Cruz, she files suit against Riley. And what is she contesting? The fact that Riley is now the trustee over her mother's trust. Priscilla says she thought she was still the trustee. Really? Oh, I didn't receive the notice, she says. That makes one kind of go, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, it's the same thing, right? As we're seeing over and over. It's the same story. And her signature looks forged, Priscilla says. I didn't receive anything, but yet Barry Siegel did. He knew about it. So what happens? She gets Bridget, and they file suit against Riley, contesting the fact that Riley is now trustee. All right. I have problems with that as well, and that's why I always say to you guys, I don't think either one of these two are innocent, because Bridget had to have known Priscilla's backstory. She had been around her for years, yet she is complicit with her in filing suit against Riley. She goes along with it. She's literally taking money away from Lisa's children to put in Priscilla's pocket. I don't find anything good about that. That's just, I don't know if because she was working for Priscilla, she felt like she didn't have a choice or what the deal was, but I don't like it. Well, what happens in between? So they filed the suit on January 26th. On May 16th, Priscilla and Riley reach a settlement that Bridget claims she helped facilitate, okay? And on or about the same time, Bridget claims that Priscilla started getting influenced by a third party. Okay, it's important to remember that. So from May 16th to August 24th is the next date of something big happening. On August 24th, Bridget receives notice revoking her power of attorney for Priscilla, and also receives a cease and desist on all activity that she's performing for Priscilla. So all the things that they had set those companies up to do, she's being told it has to stop. It's done. The next day, on August 25th, Bridget receives a letter from Priscilla's attorney alleging various misconduct and alleging she had attempted to sell Priscilla's home. Bridget claims that when she was named co-trustee, that Priscilla's attorney drafted a deed transferring Priscilla's home to her and Barb Iverson. And Bridget says that according to what was done in the past with her former trustees, this was basically standard practice, that the former trustees had also had title to her home. Is that true? We don't know. Okay. It was later, the allegation that Bridget tried to sell Priscilla's home was later dropped. Okay, so But doesn't it make you wonder if that was a ploy? And the reason I say that is because when Priscilla brought the suit against Bridget for elder abuse in California, could it be that they can use that? Oh, she thought you were trying to sell her home. No, you weren't, but you knew the state she was in. Did you take advantage? See, I'm wondering if that's going to come back and be a point they bring up. I don't know, but it's just a thought. All right. The next thing, on October 9th of 2023, after receiving this letter on August 25th from Priscilla's attorney, revoking her power of attorney, and telling her to cease and desist from doing all of the things to make money, to stop, on October 9th of 2023, Bridget goes and files suit against Priscilla for breach of contract. Okay, so Priscilla is claiming that Bridget rushed to the courthouse to file because she feared that Priscilla was going to do a filing in California and she wanted to preempt Priscilla's California action. Yet, Priscilla doesn't file for elder abuse until July 18th of 2024. So I'm going to read you what is said here, the argument that Bridget's attorney is making for the preempt. It says, this court should deny Presley's motion. She has failed to show the extraordinary circumstances necessary to depart from the principle of priority. Relying on inapplicable federal case law, Presley argues that this court should stay this action in favor of her subsequent California actions on the grounds that this action was filed in anticipation of the California action, and 2, other equitable and compelling circumstances warrant a stay. Both of these arguments fail. So Priscilla is wanting to stay the Florida case, the evidentiary hearing that is set for July. She's wanting to stay all of this until the California case is done and over. And we're going to get to more of that in a minute. And it says, Presley primarily argues that this court should stay this action because it was filed in anticipation of the California action, citing federal case law about this exception. However, Presley offers no evidence for her claim that plaintiffs filed in anticipation of the California action other than the fact that Cruz received Presley's demand letter a month and a half before PPP filed this action, apparently assuming that this fact alone establishes PPP's intent. And PPP is the company's Priscilla Presley Partners. That's one of the companies that was formed. Yet the timing and contents of the demand letter, as well as plaintiffs and Presley's filings, refute this interpretation beyond a doubt. Presley sent Cruz her demand letter on August 25th, 2023, a month and a half before Bridget and her group initiated the action on October 9th, 2023. This fact alone refutes Presley's claim that plaintiffs rushed to the courthouse in response to Presley's letter. Okay, that's what Bridget and her lawyers are saying, okay? So exactly what is the gist of Priscilla's complaint? We're going to get to that here in a minute. The next date I want to go over is November 4th of 2023. That's when the judge approves the settlement between Priscilla and Riley. And what did she walk away with? $1 million settlement up front. Immediately, she got that. Okay. She also is reimbursed to, I think it was like a tune of $40,000 for lawyer expenses that came out of the trust for the girls. Oh, yeah. And she walked away So from 2023 to 2033, she can receive she will receive $100,000 annually. When the 10 years is up, if she lives another 10 years, she gets that money for 10 years. After that date, it stops. But if she passes before then the money stops as well. Okay? So let's go ahead. That's important because she's starting to get liquid again. She's starting to have some funds. You think about, did she get something from the Sofia Coppola movie? Had she gotten some money from deals that Bridget and them were working? Although Priscilla claims that Bridget went and took all that money from her bank accounts to almost $1 million, I think is what she said. All right. Let's read the gist of Priscilla's complaint. And this is in the court documents that just came out. It says, in the California action, Ms. Presley asserted claims against Ms. Cruz. Okay? And we know that. They were against Priscilla Presley Partners, the companies they formed, and Kevin Fialco, and also Bridget's husband. Okay. The gist of Ms. Presley's complaint is that the individual defendants, including Fialco and Cruz, attempted successfully to gain plaintiff's trust and cause her to set up various entities in Florida. That is, the entities, plaintiffs in the Florida action, that would have control of plaintiff's intellectual property. The defendants would own the majority of those entities, would control them, and get the majority of the profits therefrom. In addition, plaintiff contends that defendants actually took money and property from her. According to plaintiff, defendants took steps to separate plaintiff from her longtime advisors and business managers so that they could manipulate her. But according to Bridget, on this timeline, in August of 2022, Priscilla came to them, okay? And then it goes on to say that California has the primary interest in adjudicating Ms. Presley's claims, seeking to void or rescind the very operating agreements that form the entity plaintiffs and upon which the plaintiffs in this action sue, and the California court has refused to dismiss or stay the California action. In other words, the plaintiffs in the claims in the California lawsuit address the threshold issue of whether Cruz and her co-conspirators, including Fialco, fraudulently induced Ms. Presley to enter into the operating agreements for the entity plaintiffs, which are the same agreements the plaintiffs in the Florida action sue under. And this is in bold print. If Ms. Presley prevails in California action, all of the Florida plaintiffs' claims fail. That's what I've been saying from day one. That is why Priscilla does not want this evidentiary hearing to happen in Florida, because she wants the case in California to go straight through, because if she wins there, all of this is basically done. Okay? Priscilla is asking for a stay in the Florida action until the California suit is over for good reason. We know that. Her attorneys know that. Bridget has got to know that. Her attorneys have to. I mean, if they prove that Priscilla was elder abused, which they could go back and use some of the stuff I've read to you guys, then the companies they formed would have been done fraudulently, right? They would have been done under duress. But yet that video doesn't show that she was under duress. That video shows she completely trusted them. to the point that she didn't even bother to read what she was signing, okay? So the evidentiary hearing in Florida is set for July 21st of 2025. They are still trying to decide if Florida has personal jurisdiction over Priscilla. And that hasn't happened yet. So I wanted to go over one other thing with you guys. She also says, if I can get this stuff, that Priscilla also says that the plaintiffs, Bridget, Fialco, that group, have obstructed her efforts to conduct discovery into personal jurisdiction, despite the court's order allowing such discovery. Okay, for every single objection or every single thing that Priscilla has brought up on trying to discover if they have jurisdiction over her or not, Bridget's lawyers have given like a statement as to why they don't believe that this is fair or not. That is why that evidentiary hearing is important, so they can determine once and for all whether or not Florida does have jurisdiction over Priscilla. So Bridget's group is fighting tooth and nail to have this evidentiary hearing that Priscilla doesn't want, because it will determine whether or not Bridget has a leg to stand on in this case, okay? But Priscilla wants the trial in California to happen first, even though she filed it second, but she's claiming the reason that Bridget filed this suit in Florida first was to beat her to the courthouse. I'm not sure I agree with that. I don't think so. But regardless, that's what she's going to try to prove. So it is a tit for tat going on right now. They are going back and forth and trying to figure, outdo each other to see which one comes out on top. It's going to be an interesting ride, y'all. We're going to keep learning things as we go. That is the gist of everything that came out in these documents without me basically going through and reading every single thing to you. Those were some of the highlights that I took out of it. If more comes out, I'll go get more involved and dig deeper into what's going on. But hopefully we'll know something here really soon as to whether or not Priscilla's going to get her way or if they're going to have the evidentiary hearing in Florida. We will see. So anyhow, until next time, remember, you only get one shot at this life, so live each day to the fullest, because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. Thank you all for tuning in to Presley Mania, and if you have not done so and you like the content you saw, please be sure and hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. It helps me greatly. I appreciate you all. Thank you for your continued support. Until next time, hope to see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.